I love that. So what's one question I haven't asked that you would like for me to ask, Rick?
Let's see. I don't know, Steve. I think you've asked great questions. Part of this whole love thing is, is you got to love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I would say another question that you could ask, and I'll ask it and then I'll answer it, is how do you become passionate about what you do?
Yeah.
Because that's the, you got the logos, that's the pathos, that's the emotion, that's the passion. How do you become passionate? And one of the greatest books for anybody to read, other than maybe I don't know, maybe a scientist, wouldn't need to read this book, but it was published back in the 1930s, and the name of the book is How I Raised Myself from a Failure to a Success in Selling by Frank Bettger. And Frank Bettger was a total failure, and I won't tell you the whole story, but he was a total failure as a salesperson. He was a total failure as a baseball player. I mean, not a total, he got into the minors, and he was a failure as a baseball player. And his coach challenged him to become full of energy and enthusiasm for the game. And he did, and ended up almost made it to the majors, and then got injured and didn't make it into the majors. So he went into selling insurance. Same thing. He was a total loser as an insurance salesman. and he except he was a very good salesperson of selling all of his stuff. He was selling furniture and everything just to put food on the table. And he went back in the 30s. He went to a Dale Carnegie class taught by Dale Carnegie. And Dale Carnegie was talking about energy and enthusiasm. And he said, Dale Carnegie said, if you don't feel enthusiastic, fine, act enthusiastic. And this is another little axiom of my life. Act enthusiastic, and you will become enthusiastic in your heart, in your gut. And so Frank Bettger, did that the next day. The class was at night the next day, and he became, within a year or two, the #1 life insurance salesman in the world through energy and enthusiasm, passion. Okay. And so I was a failure selling Bibles door to door in Greenville, South Carolina. And I read that chapter sitting on the front stoop of a little store, that back then they didn't have a gas station with a 7-Eleven behind it. They just had, maybe they had, I guess they had those a little bit, but mostly just little stores, selling what you get in a 7-Eleven, but not fancy, just little mom and pop stores. And I went in there and got myself an RC Cola and a moon pie. And I sat on that stoop, and I'm feeling like what a loser I am. And I had some tears in my eyes, thinking I was a 19-year-old loser. And I read that chapter from Frank Bettger's book, and it electrified me. I thought, well, I can act enthusiastic, and I did, and became a very successful book salesman that summer, in the top 20 first-year agents out of 5,000 students, and so on. And it happened in a moment in time with tears in my eyes, moon pie in my mouth, and an RC Cola in my hand, and a book in the other hand. And it happened in the twinkling of an eye. So I'm a great believer in energy and enthusiasm. And when you act that way, you become that way, and then everything's different. I mean, I go home and I act enthusiastic about seeing my wife, and then I feel enthusiastic about seeing her, so it affects everything.